Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm bringing you another deeply emotional episode, the love story of Hoai Ca and Hung. A simple, heartfelt romance set in a peaceful countryside, yet filled with worries, challenges, and unwavering devotion. Join me as we follow their journey. From the quiet, everyday moments of rural life, to the touching scenes of tears, hope, and faith in life's little miracles. If you enjoy this story, don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment to support the channel. And now, let's get started. A pale morning mist blanketed the winding dirt road leading into the village. On both sides, rows of mustard greens still glistened with dew, their earthy scent mingling with the faint aroma of straw carried by the early breeze. From afar came the sound of roosters crowing, dogs barking, and children's laughter, together forming the familiar melody of a countryside dawn. Inside a small, time-worn tile-roofed house, thin smoke rose from the kitchen, curling into the air and blending with the sunlight filtering gently through the leaves. Hoai Ca sat at an old wooden table, the soft morning light touching her gentle face. In front of her sat Tony, a 2-year-old boy with round cheeks and bright black eyes, staring curiously at the steaming bowl of porridge before him. She blew softly on the spoon and whispered, almost like a lullaby. "Open your mouth, sweetie, it's hot, take it slow." Tony obediently ate, but when his mother paused, she picked up a few colorful wooden blocks and showed them to him, speaking tenderly as she fed him. "This is yellow, and this is blue. Say it with me, sweetheart, blue." The boy gazed at her intently, his lips moving, but no sound came out. Only a faint, before falling silent again. Hoai Ca smiled, a soft, fragile smile that only a mother could wear. In her eyes glimmered both worry and tenderness, though she tried to hide the sadness behind her calm expression. Outside the porch, footsteps echoed lightly on the brick floor. Hung returned from his morning exercise, his t-shirt damp with dew, his breath still misting in the cool air. He stopped at the doorway, quietly taking in the scene before him, his young wife patiently feeding their child, her serene smile glowing in the morning light. He stepped closer, sat down beside her, and gently tousled Tony's hair. The little boy giggled but still said nothing. Hung's gaze softened, he sighed quietly. "Our boy's all ready too, but he still only babbles a few sounds. I can't help but worry, Hoai Ca." She was silent for a moment, then replied softly, her voice calm, though it trembled like someone trying to comfort herself as much as him. "I worry too. But maybe he's just a late talker. The doctor said some children take longer. When the time's right, he'll start speaking. Let's just keep teaching him, little by little." Hung said nothing. He just watched his son, the tiny hands tapping the spoon gently against the table, making a rhythmic clinking sound. The morning sunlight touched the boy's face, innocent, carefree, and somehow, heartbreakingly beautiful. A light breeze passed through the open window, carrying the scent of young rice, the faint smoke from breakfast fires, and the cheerful shouts of neighbors heading to the fields. Hoai Ca stood to clear the dishes, while Hung remained seated, his eyes still fixed on his child, the eyes of a father caught between faith and a quiet, gnawing fear. He bent down, lifted Tony into his arms, and said softly, "My little boy, say ba, daddy, for me, will you?" Tony only laughed, wrapping his arms around his father's neck, silent but smiling. That smile warmed Hung's heart, yet somehow tightened it too, like an invisible thread pulling deep within. Outside, the sun climbed higher. Light poured over the village, over rooftops, rows of areca palms, and the last dewdrops melting away. Another peaceful morning had begun, gentle, calm, yet within the hearts of the young couple, small, quiet worries for their child's future lingered with every breath. The afternoon sun had softened, its golden light filtering gently through the mango leaves outside the porch, casting warm streaks across the floor. Tony sat on the ground, playing quietly with his colorful wooden blocks. Every now and then, he smiled to himself, his tiny hands stacking the blocks carefully into a wobbly little tower. Hung sat by the doorway, holding a cup of cold tea, his gaze lost in the distance. His face carried a pensive look that he couldn't quite hide. The breeze drifted through the yard, carrying with it the faint scent of drying straw from somewhere down the village, making time itself seem to slow. From the kitchen, Hoai Ca stepped out and gently placed a plate of fruit on the table. She noticed the faraway look in her husband's eyes. "You're worried about Tony again, aren't you?" she asked softly. Hung nodded, his voice low and heavy. "Yeah. I think I'll take a day off tomorrow and go to the district to look for a speech center. Our boy's almost 3, and he still can't say a single word clearly. I'm afraid that if we wait too long, he'll fall behind the other kids." Hoai Ca fell silent. His words touched the very fear she'd been quietly keeping to herself. She sat down beside him, her eyes gentle, though deep inside, a flicker of unease still lingered. "Maybe we should take him to see a doctor first," she said quietly. "Just to be sure. What if there's something we don't know about his health? It could be something small, but I'd rather be certain." Hung set down his cup and took her hand in his. "I understand. But don't blame yourself anymore, Hoai Ca. Even if he's a little slow, it's okay. What matters is that we're here for him, teaching him, guiding him. I truly believe he'll speak one day, it's just a matter of time." His voice was warm and steady, yet there was a faint tremor, as if he was trying to convince himself as much as her. Hoai Ca looked up at him, her eyes glistening in the golden light. She nodded slowly and smiled, a soft smile, touched with both love and lingering worry. They sat in silence for a while, the only sound coming from Tony's cheerful laughter as his tall block tower tumbled down. He clapped his hands, giggling uncontrollably, pure and carefree. Both parents turned to look at their son, their hearts softening. In that quiet moment, inside their humble home, they both knew, no matter the fear, no matter how hard the road ahead, as long as they could see their child smile, everything would be worth it. Outside, the crimson sunset settled over the old tiled roof and the banana grove behind the house, bathing everything in a gentle glow. Another day was coming to an end, but for the young couple, a new journey was just beginning, the journey to help their little boy find his very first words. ChatGPT de NOI. Morning dew still clung to the blades of grass along the narrow village road. The air was cool and fresh after the storm, filled with the sound of roosters crowing and sparrows chirping among the treetops. Hung rode his old motorbike, with little Tony sitting in front, clutching tightly to a small yellow backpack, the gift his mother had bought for his first day of class. "Be good, son. Listen to your teacher, okay?" Hung said softly, his voice warm yet laced with worry. Tony simply smiled, his round eyes blank with innocence, not quite understanding what his father meant. Hung watched his son walk into the small classroom before starting the engine again. He needed to get to the district early, hoping to find a speech center that could help his boy. The road to the district stretched long and empty. The early wind whipped past, tugging at his shirt with each turn of the motorbike. Inside his mind, thoughts tumbled restlessly. If there isn't one in the district, maybe I'll have to go all the way to the city. My boy can't keep falling behind like this. Meanwhile, across the village, Hoai Ca was tying up a few remaining bundles of sugarcane left standing after the storm. The stalks had been broken and bent by the wind, but she gathered what she could, trimmed them short, and tied them neatly together. "Even if I sell cheap, at least it won't go to waste," she murmured to herself as she lifted the bundles onto her shoulder and headed to the market. The path to the market passed by a familiar piece of land, the spot where their first home once stood. That small house, which they had reluctantly sold the year before to pay off debts after the flood, was now in someone else's hands. As she reached the gate, Hoai Ca stopped in her tracks. The house looked different now. Its walls had been freshly painted white, the roof tiles replaced, the doors coated in green. In the yard, new wooden furniture stood neatly arranged, and a row of bright pink muoi geo flowers bloomed in the morning sun. Everything looked brighter, livelier, and yet, her heart grew heavy. She stood silently, gazing through the window frame, her hand unconsciously tightening around the handle of her bamboo carrying pole. The memories flooded back, Tony's laughter when he first learned to walk, Hung bent over fixing a leaky roof, the cozy nights when the three of them sat together by the fire. Now, all of it existed only in memory. A gentle breeze brushed past, making her hair sway. Her eyes glistened as she let out a quiet sigh. "I wonder, when will we ever be able to buy this house back?" she whispered, her voice trembling. After a long moment, she wiped her tears quickly, took a deep breath, and lifted the sugarcane pole onto her shoulder once more. She continued walking along the muddy red road, her small figure slowly fading into the morning sunlight, carrying with her a bundle of sweetness, a heart full of longing, and a quiet, unbroken hope. That one day, they would return home, and the old house would once again echo with the laughter of their little boy. On his way to the district, Hung rode past vast grapefruit orchards heavy with ripe fruit. Golden clusters hung beneath the lush green leaves, their sweet fragrance wafting gently through the morning air. In the distance, a few villagers were busy picking fruit, their cheerful chatter echoing across the fields, a sign that life in the countryside was slowly returning to normal after the storm. Hung slowed down just as he spotted a familiar figure standing by the roadside. He stopped the motorbike and called out, "Hey, man! Is that you?" The man turned around and broke into a wide smile. "Brother Hung. Long time no see. I heard you moved across the stream. I thought you were still away on duty." The two men shook hands warmly and sat down on the grassy edge of the field, where dew still clung to the blades of grass. Their talk began with the usual topics: this year's grapefruit harvest, how the fruit was abundant but prices had dropped after the flood. Then the conversation drifted to the storm, roofs torn away, homes destroyed, neighbors helping one another rebuild from scratch. A light breeze stirred the air, carrying the scent of wet earth and grapefruit blossoms. Hung's tone grew quieter. "We're lucky we still have a place to stay now, but I still feel a pang thinking about our old house. So many memories in that place." He paused, staring off into the orchard, then continued in a slow, thoughtful voice, as if speaking to himself. "Tony's growing fast, but he still hasn't started talking properly. I'm worried. I'm heading to the district today to look for a speech therapy center, but it's such a long trip. I'm afraid there won't be anything suitable nearby." Man nodded, his expression full of empathy. "Every child's different, brother. Don't worry too much. Your boy will talk soon, he just needs time. You've always taken such good care of your family. Heaven won't turn its back on a man like you." Hung smiled faintly, a weary smile. He looked up at the grapefruit trees swaying gently in the breeze. "I just want him to be healthy, to grow up like other kids. Oh, and man, if you pass by the old place tonight, can you take a look for me? I heard someone new moved in, but I'm not sure if they bought it or just rented it." Man nodded. "Don't worry, I'll check for you. I'll ride by tonight and let you know." They sat there a while longer, talking about work and life. Hung shared stories of his missions, how he and his teammates had crossed rivers at night to deliver relief supplies to flood victims in time. Man listened attentively, a look of admiration and quiet sympathy in his eyes. When it was time to part, Hung clasped his friend's hand tightly. "Thanks, man. I'll bring my wife and son over to visit someday." Then he started his engine and continued down the sunlit country road, the sound of the motor fading into the rustling wind that whispered through the grapefruit groves. In his heart, emotions intertwined, worry for his son, longing for the home they'd lost, and a fragile but persistent hope that someday, somehow, he'd once again hear Tony's laughter echoing inside that beloved old house. Evening fell softly over the village, the last golden light spilling across the narrow dirt road. Hoai Ca walked home, her shoulders carrying the empty bamboo baskets from the market, and in her hand, a small plastic bag filled with treasures for her son, an electronic alphabet board, a few tracing books, and a box of bright crayons. Her face was still glistening with sweat, but her eyes shone with the quiet, steadfast hope of a mother. When she reached home, Hung hadn't returned yet. The house was silent, filled only with the sound of wind rustling through the areca trees and the soft chirping of chicks by the porch. Hoai Ca set the bag down, rested for a moment, then called out, "Tony, come here, sweetheart. Mommy has something fun for you." From inside, Tony came running, his black eyes sparkling, his hair tousled, his little smile as bright as the evening sun. Hoai Ca spread a small mat on the floor, took out the alphabet board, and placed it in front of him. "This is the letter A, and this is a star. Try pressing it, honey, let's see what it says." Tony hesitated for a second, then reached out a tiny finger to press a button. A cheerful voice chimed from the board. "Cat. Pig." The boy flinched, eyes wide with surprise. Then, instinctively, he turned around and ran behind his mother, searching curiously for the talking person. Hoai Ca couldn't help but laugh, a sound both tender and choked with emotion. She bent down, hugged him gently, and whispered, "It's not a real person, sweetheart, it's the board talking. You did great." Tony looked up at her with big, wondering eyes, then reached out to touch the board again. This time, he didn't run away. He tilted his head, listening carefully. The recorded voice continued, filling the little house with its gentle rhythm. "Duck. Fish. Letter B." Each beep and word felt like a flicker of light, warming the corners of her weary heart. Hoai Ca sat beside her son, patiently guiding him through each letter, each picture. Sunset filtered through the wooden window frame, glinting softly on her hair, turning the humble scene into something radiant and tender. After a while, fatigue crept in, but her voice remained full of encouragement. "Good job, Tony. You're learning so fast. We'll study more tomorrow, okay?" Tony smiled, his small hand curling around her finger. In his innocent eyes, there was a new spark, a quiet gleam, like the first green sprout breaking through the soil. Hoai Ca gazed at him, tears welling up, yet her lips still curved into a smile. In a life filled with hardship, she knew this simple truth: every small step her child took forward, no matter how slow, was already a miracle. Outside, dusk deepened. The oil lamp flickered to life, casting a soft golden glow through the window. The gentle voice from the alphabet board echoed in the room, blending with the tender laughter of mother and child. A simple, precious melody, lighting a new spark of hope for the long journey ahead. Dusk settled over the village, painting the sky in soft shades of violet. Crickets chirped beneath the eaves, and the faint scent of freshly dried straw drifted in with the evening breeze. The wooden door creaked open. Hung stepped inside, his clothes still dusty from the road, his face etched with the fatigue of a long day. He set his helmet on the table and let out a heavy sigh. I've been out all day, but there isn't a single speech center for children anywhere. Not one in our district. Looks like we'll have to go to the city. His voice was hoarse with exhaustion, yet calm as always. Hoai Ca, folding laundry nearby, paused and looked up. She nodded gently, trying to hide the wave of disappointment welling up inside her. Then, tomorrow, let's take Tony to the doctor first, she said softly. I'm afraid, what if there's something wrong with his ears or tongue? Hung moved closer, sitting down beside her. The glow of the oil lamp revealed the tired lines at the corners of his eyes. He reached out and took her hand, his voice low and warm. I know you worry a lot, but don't blame yourself, okay? This isn't your fault. You're the best mother I've ever known. At those words, Hoai Ca lowered her gaze. Her eyes shimmered with tears, but a small, tender smile curved her lips. Outside, the wind whispered through the areca trees, mingling with the crackling of the charcoal fire in the corner, a quiet, gentle peace filling the little home. In the main room, Tony sat on a mat, holding his new alphabet board. He pressed each button eagerly, his eyes bright with fascination. Suddenly, the board spoke in a cheerful, clear voice. Hello, little one. Try pressing a button. Tony's eyes widened in surprise before he burst into laughter, pure and bright. He pressed another button, and the voice chimed again. Letter A. Letter B. And then, something magical happened. Tony opened his mouth and softly repeated. Both Hung and Hoai Ca turned toward him, stunned. In that moment, the small house seemed to glow with light. Their eyes met, filled with emotion, joy, and tears. It wasn't much, but it was enough to make their hearts overflow. Hung gently ruffled his son's hair, his voice trembling. Good boy. Daddy's so proud of you, Tony. Hoai Ca gathered her child into her arms, whispering through her tears. You did it, my love, you said your first word. The sound of their laughter, soft, pure, and full of love, echoed through the humble home, blending with the evening wind outside. Under the flickering oil lamp, the three of them sat together, no grand promises, no words needed. That tiny voice, that single sound, was enough to light up their entire world. Outside, the night deepened. The wind rustled across the old roof tiles. But inside, a small flame of hope had been kindled, marking the beginning of a new journey, one guided by love, faith, and the courage to believe in miracles. Yet the road ahead was still long. Tony had only just spoken his first word. Was it truly the sign of a miracle, or the beginning of another test waiting for this little family? Stay tuned for the next episode. When Hung and Hoai Ca take Tony to the city for a full checkup. In search of answers behind their son's first precious words. And don't forget to like, share, and leave a comment to send your love and support for their story.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình tiếp tục đưa đến với mọi người câu chuyện về mẹ đơn thân với Hoai Ca và mẹ sắc hồng và mọi người thân mến. Trong tập này thì hiện tại Tony đang bị mắc phải một cái bệnh lạ, nó dạng giống như là một dạng chậm phát triển hoặc là một dạng kiểu về rối loạn, khiến cho Tony đang có một số vấn đề về khả năng giao tiếp, giống như là cậu bé chưa thể nói rõ ràng được. Mặc dù đã hơn 2 tuổi, thường thì với độ tuổi 2 tuổi thì các bé đã tập nói và nói được khá là nhiều từ đơn giản rồi, nhưng Tony thì không. Vì vậy Hoai Ca và Hùng đang rất là lo lắng và đang cố gắng tìm cách để có thể chữa bệnh cho Tony. Vậy thì hành trình chữa bệnh cho Tony sẽ như thế nào, và liệu cả hai có thành công và Tony có thể nói được bình thường như mọi người, bạn bè hay không, thì hãy cùng đón xem video tiếp theo ở tập ngày mai nha. Tạm biệt mọi người, hẹn gặp lại trong những video sau. Bye bye.